Good evening. I'm going to call the June 10th, 2025 council meeting to order. Our invocation is going to be done by Ethan Waits, our ground maintenance manager, and the pledge will be followed with Officer Paul Lewis. Would you stand with me, please? Ethan, would you come up to the mic? Thank you, sir. Yeah, so the people can hear.
All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for allowing us to gather here, Lord. And we just pray that you would be with the elected officials and the staff members here this afternoon, Lord, and just help them to make the decisions that are going to best benefit the city and the citizens that reside in it, Lord. And we just pray, Lord, that you would take us all home safe to our families, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Officer. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Officer Lewis's first 10 years in law enforcement was in the Air Force from 1995 to 2005, left the military and began his civilian law enforcement career in the Paulding County Sheriff's Office, left Paulding County and began work at Cobb County Sheriff's Office from 2007 to 2013, and then began working with Villa Rica Police Department. He left VRPD in September of 2023 and worked for Carroll County Sheriff's Office until he returned to Villa Rica PD in May of 2025. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Officer Lewis. Oh, will you pause that for just a moment? Just one moment. We had two significant days that happened between our last meeting and now, and I didn't want those to go unrecognized. That is Memorial Day that we had on May 30th, and also just this past Friday was D-Day. Go ahead, thank you.
My family is with me today. They wanted to come with me. To be honest with you, I wasn't sure how I'd feel coming back here. Every day, I'm thinking of what you said to me that day on the bridge. I'm trying to live my life the best I could. I hope that was enough. I hope that at least in your eyes, I've earned what all of you have done for me.
James. Captain Johnny H. Miller.
Tell me I've led a good life. Tell me I'm a good man.
You are.
May we remember when we see the visualization of all those crosses that are there in Normandy and other locations, not only to remember those that gave their lives so that we could have these liberties and freedoms, but that we would remember also our responsibility to protect those liberties and freedoms. So thank you for those few moments that we could remember and honor those both for Memorial Day and for D-Day. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. Before I go into public comment, I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Anna McCoy for covering while I was out of the country for the work session. I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that.
No problem.
I have that the ceremonial presentations for the police department is under council updates. Has that been moved? It's been moved?
Yes, ma'am.
Right up to the top? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I printed off this agenda, I believe it was today, but it was off the main site, so that one may not have gotten updated. All right, then we'll go ahead and go to the ceremonial presentations, a dedication of the police department annual report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it very much. So every year we dedicate our annual report to someone that's meant a lot to the department, to the city, things like that. And this year, the video was good because it is fitting, because the gentleman that we're honoring tonight also served in the military and started in 1977 as a military police officer. And he did that for several years. He was a K-9 officer there. He worked for several other police departments before coming to Villa Rica in 2001. He was promoted to captain in 2003. And I came here in 2005, and I have told him this, but I want him to understand how much he meant to me in the position and how much he helped me make the department what it is today. And he had a huge part of that. He's a good person. He's a integrity-driven person that I just have so much respect for. So we'd like to honor Captain Keith Shaddix tonight. The Villa Rica Police Department would like to honor Captain Keith Shaddix for his exemplary service to our department for the last 24 years. Captain Shaddix retired at the beginning of 2025 and will be greatly missed by our department. He definitely served with integrity for Villa Rica Police Department. Thanks, Keith, for your service. Okay. And thank you, Marla, for being here. Marla's Keith's wife, and she kept him in line to where he did what he needed to do when he was here. But we appreciate him. So thank you again, Keith. Keith, do you want to do a picture?
Give us a picture and this is a big deal. And 24 years, no less. So we need to celebrate that and make sure we post it.
I know you don't want to stand beside him.
I will.
I'm trying to figure out how to get out of the way. Okay, we're going to move into public comment. Sign-in sheet was picked up just prior to the meeting. Please state your name and address for the record. And if you're a city resident, that does help us connect you if your concern is in a particular ward and your council person would want to respond. And limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes. Pamela White.
Oh, okay. Good evening, council. Pamela White, 102 Anderson Road. I'm here tonight as a concerned citizen. I recently learned that the mayor approved the hiring of a former city manager without first informing or consulting the full council and without public transparency. What concerns me even more is that a salary was apparently offered before the council had any opportunity to review, discuss, or vote on it. That is not how government is supposed to work. City council members are elected to represent the people. When key decisions are made behind closed doors, especially involving someone who previously held a position of power, it raises serious red flags at a minimum. It shows a lack of respect for the council's role and the public's right to know what's going on. As a resident and of residents, we expect honesty, transparency, and ethical conduct from all of our city leaders. No one, no matter their position, should bypass the process or act unilaterally in ways that damage public trust. That's why I'm asking this council to, if you can table or reject any vote to approve the salary until you are fully briefed on the hiring process. The public is given a clear explanation of how and why this decision was made, and you confirm that the process followed was fair, legal, and open. We deserve better than backroom decisions. We deserve integrity. As we all know, that this city is in a crisis, and to accept anything less than the best from our elected officials is just not acceptable. When contracts or whatever are approved and someone is getting paid, it's we the taxpayers that have to pay that. But for our elected officials from all 5 wards don't have a say-so in that process, it says a lot. And not to attack any leader, but real leaders will offer transparency so that you can build a strong base within your council, so that there's no questions for integrity. So I'm asking that you all, though I don't know the gentleman that's up for it, and if you all see fit for him to have it, so be it. But do your homework, and council, take your power back.
Brad Hartley.
Brad Hartley, 2367 South Van Wert Road. I am not a resident. I just want to speak briefly about the process that the council took when they approved the annexation and the rezoning of the property for the data center. Since I'll be directly impacted by that, I was curious as to what the center in Cartersville looked like, since it was described by the attorney representing the developers as, hey, you want to put a data center there? Tell me why I want a data center. So I contacted a golfing buddy. It turns out he lives in a subdivision that is on the other side of a 4-lane highway from where the proposed data center will be. And so I went up, sat down with him, and we had a long discussion. And the first thing I found out was that they were very open about what they were doing. They had meetings with business leaders. They had open meetings with the public. They ran notices in the paper. They let people know what was going on. And they even provided a proposed site plan. Now, I drove to the site where the data center is going in, and it's approximately a quarter to a half mile from any other, home or residence. But also, it's behind a hill, which means that nobody is going to see it. Unlike the property that is being looked at right now for putting the data center here in Villa Rica. And so I think the whole process of being open, letting the people know what's being planned, what it's going to look like, all this information could have been done, but it wasn't done. I mean, they were very transparent with the public in Cartersville, but it doesn't appear that there was any transparency here in Villa Rica. And I'm curious as to why that didn't happen. And of course, I understand that how important it is for the city of Villa Rica as far as, the taxation and whatever. But I just happen to be on the other side of the street from this property. And so you're looking out for the city of Villa Rica at my expense and at the expense of other neighbors. And so I just wanted to voice my thoughts and what I found when I went up to Cartersville, and I wonder why that same openness and education of the populace didn't take place here. Now, would it have prevented any pushback? I don't know. But I do know when you try and do something and you don't let people know what's coming, why it's coming, and what's going to happen, there's going to be pushback. Thank you very much.
Doug Lang.
Doug Lang, 262 South Carroll Road, Villa Rica, and I am a resident. Just very quickly, I'm not even sure if I have the information correct, so forgive me if it's not correct. But about the city manager, it's not necessarily about procedure or whether it's being done right or who has the right to do what and so forth. But I guess if I understand correctly, it's a gentleman, and the gentleman may have been city manager before. So I don't know if that's right or not. But if it is, there's two things that immediately come to mind about not this individual, but the position of city manager. One is it seems like, and this may be an exaggeration, but and I don't want to use the word recycled. I can't think of another word. But it seems like we have some of the same individuals coming in that were once managers or held similar positions before. And not that there's anything necessarily, certainly nothing inappropriate about it, nothing necessarily wrong about it, but I would personally like to see, and again, I don't know if this is the right thing, but new blood, like see somebody, a fresh face, somebody new come in. And the other thing is, I'm a little concerned with, the number of managers we've had. I don't know if it's 4 or 5, but, a handful of managers in the last, maybe it's 2 years now, a year and a half. And I would like to see us take the time to get and they all seem to be interim manager, interim deputy manager, interim. It seems to me that I'll just say 2 years, year and a half. In a year and a half, it seems to me we would have, thank you. I thought time went faster as I got older, but maybe it's slowing down. Anyway, in the time that 1 year it's been, and if it's been 4 or 5 managers, whatever, they're all interim managers. And it seems to me like in that amount of time, we could have or should have identified a manager, someone that we feel, whether he or she, is going to be here for a good period of time and settle in, that they know the city, we know them, and there's some comfort level there. That's it. Thank you.
Alita Farmer.
Hi. Good Good evening, council and mayor. I'm a lead adopts farmer, represent 216 Anderson Road in the city of Villa Rica. Speaking to you this evening about transparency. There's been a lot of different things over the course of the last 2 months that has been affecting not only our community but other communities. And as the gentleman prior to me, and as Pam had mentioned, that there has been a lack of transparency. Transparency not only with what has been going on in Ward 1, but transparency what has been going on in the government as a whole. And my concern this evening is the fact that with saying all of that, who is looking out and representing the people of Villa Rica? You know, you all were elected to represent the people of Villa Rica, the people that pay taxes. And from what I've been seeing since I've been coming to city government or council meetings, is that the representation is not for the people, but for the developers, or for the investors, or for whomever that may benefit, I guess, Villa Rica, because apparently it's not benefiting the people. And, you know, I had an opportunity probably back over a year ago to meet you, Leslie McPherson. And, you know, one of the things that I took from my first initial meeting was that you wanted to represent the people and that you were concerned about our well-being. But what I've seen is that everything that has been put in place has not been to help anyone. I used to think it was just Ward 1. I'm going to be honest. I thought we were singled out. But from what I'm seeing, it's anyone that you want to silence and take away their voice. I am concerned with the elected officials we have. And so what I'm going to propose for all of you today is this. If y'all truly care for us, the people of Villa Rica, you will vote not according to the developers, not the investors, but the people. Because everybody that I hear that comes up here are saying the same thing that Ward 1 is saying. So remember why y'all were elected.
Joshua Evans?
Joshua, 640 Cleveland Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. I am a resident. There's a couple of things today that I want to bring up. A lot of it seems to be a recurring issue that keeps coming back to y'all again and again and again. It's a known fact. I've told y'all several times. You look it up. You look up the Clean Water Act. You look when it was established. You look when it was enforced. When you have your staff spraying creek banks and ditches and storm drains and signs, that's not good when it goes in our waterways. It makes animals sick, people sick, all that stuff. You have grease going in it, where you allowed Fuqua Development to do their dumpster pads with no interceptors, right? All that's still there. How are we going to fix it? Well, I don't know. We allowed it and we CO'd it, but we don't know how to fix it now. Sounds like me, the city's on the hook for that one. You got a thing right here that says development regulations. How y'all going to put regulations out there? Some more regulations out there. Y'all can't even follow the ones that are out there now. You can't get staff to do their job now, can you? You writing tickets on the regulations you already got? No. No, you're not. I've shown you 1,000 times. Y'all complain about a capacity problem at these sewer plants. Well, if you get rid of these open cleanouts or broken cleanouts and manholes where water's infiltrating it, when's the last time we did a smoke test here on this stuff? Probably a long time ago, probably. It aggravates me to no end to go out and see the grease that's being poured down storm drains that's running straight into them. It aggravates me to no end. Now, another reason I'm here tonight. you all, staff had a lady on Clearview Street pay $5,000 to get a 6-inch clean out put into the city's right of way because she had a fence up. Now it's in that city right of way and that line's still stopped up. Well, why they got it rode on the street out there that is a 8-inch PVC line? Nope. It's a terracotta line. Yeah. Told y'all 2 years ago to keep them big trucks off that street, that it wouldn't hold it. Now we having a line failure out there. Roots getting in the lines because the pipes are cracked because of all that weight. We told y'all, we come up here and told you. Nobody wouldn't listen. Y'all don't follow the regulations that are set by federal government and state now. So what makes y'all think y'all going to put some more regulations out there and follow them? You don't.
That's everyone I have on the public comment list. Council updates. No council updates? Okay, then I'll just mention, if it will allay anyone's concerns or fears, I stayed absolutely within the city charter in regards to interview hiring practices for the city manager position, and also conferred with the attorney all along the way, as well as updating council on where we were in the process. And so I just want to make sure people are aware of that, because otherwise, a violation of the charter, something along that line, would be a problem. And I'm absolutely committed to staying within the guidelines that I have as the mayor, and using the authority I have, but not abusing it. We have the consent agenda. Let's see, we did ceremonial presentations. Consent agenda, these are items in a single that encompass all things the city council would normally approve with little comment. Each of these items was discussed during the city council work session. It was unanimous consensus of the governing body to place the following items on the consent agenda. So these were all covered in the last work session a week ago, and I'll go ahead and read each one of them off. Item number 1, July is Parks and Recreation Month. Number 2, Planning and Zoning reappointment of Julie Seppen for Ward 2. Number 3, approval of Jameson Towns Phase 2 final plat. Number 4, approval of a temporary limited alcohol pouring license for ETA Omega Foundation, Inc. Number 5, approval of the renewal of the 2025-26 workers' compensation with Bitco. Number 6, adoption of the GDOT Title 9 non-discrimination agreement. Number 7, approval of the resolution declaring municipal property as surplus and authorizing the disposition and sale of the property located at Russell Street. All right, governing body, item number 1.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll entertain a motion to
Okay.
adopt the consent
I'll
agenda.
move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Thank you. Governing body, number 1, Housing Authority appointment. I received a recommendation from the Villa Rica Housing Authority and am making the appointment of Barbara Daniel. Number 2, Planning and Zoning Commission, Ward 1.
Shirley?
It's time for you to make your nomination.
Okay. As far as the planning and zoning committee for Ward 1, that I have asked that Ms. Vivian Line would be the representative for Ward 1 on the planning and zoning.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Item number 3, we have approval of the May 6 council work session meetings. Anyone have any adjustments or corrections that weren't already done? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the May 6, 2025 council work session minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is
Aye.
unanimous.
Item 4, approval of the May 13, 2025 council meeting minutes.
Mayor, if I can interject, point of order. Were we supposed to approve Barbara Daniel for, okay.
No, it's a direct appointment. Yeah.
Kevin just said it was something that needed approval, correct?
Okay, so how do we do it if it says the mayor can just makes the appointment, so we still need to vote on it? Just, okay, so the charter, it says the mayor makes the appointment, but do we do it just so it's in the record as an approved item? Okay, okay. All right, then let's go ahead and back up, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointment as recommended for the Villa Rica Housing Authority, Barbara Daniel.
Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Barbara Daniel to the Housing Authority.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Thank you. And we were on the council minutes for item 4, the approval of the council meeting minutes for May 13. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 13th, 2025 council meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Thank you. All right, item 5, consideration of Board of Ethics recommendation after hearing.
Okay. The Board of Ethics held a hearing on the complaint, the first complaint they received on the 30th? Is it May? Okay, no, the hearing wasn't that day. All right, they held the actual hearing on May 23rd. I think that following Friday, the 30th, they prepared a report and recommendation to this council. I think you've all received it, so if the council wants to accept that recommendation, now would be the time to do it. If they want to do, council wants to do something else, they are a recommending body, so it's up to this council to determine what to do, if anything, with that recommendation.
How do we handle this, Kevin? Just approve the report presented?
Yeah, you can approve the report, or you can take some other action if you wanted to. The ordinance is vague as far as that's concerned. Probably one of the things we need to clean up, but that's, it says they're supposed to issue their report to you within 7 days of the hearing.
And we got that report. I'll make a motion that we accept and approve the report presented by the Ethics Board on the complaint number 1.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right.
All in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Thank you. Item C, Community Development, TA-05-25, text amendment to modify the smoke shops, tobacco stores, and medical cannabis dispensaries, and the definition of vape shop. This does require a public hearing.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Sean Daniels. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator here with the city. And this amendment was initiated during the rising of smoke shops, as well as vape shops being proposed within the city limits. Vape and vape devices are relatively new business type, and our current city ordinance does not regulate nor define such uses. To address this gap, Section 8.22 of the zoning ordinance is being updated to include relevant language. First, staff proposes to increase the required distance between vape shops and sensitive groups. Sensitive groups in areas such as schools, religious institutions, parks, and hospitals. From 300 feet to 1,500 feet, and that is from property line to property line. Also increasing the required distance between similar smoke shops from 500 feet to 1,500 feet property line to property line. No properties within the central business district shall be rezoned to allow smoke shops or vape shops. And businesses where nicotine or vape-related purchases exceeding 25% of aggregate sales will be classified as a smoke or a vape shop. The text has been added to regulate any businesses that qualify as a smoke or vape shop is required to submit a verified report during the annual business license renewal process. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended to deviate from staff's proposal of the aggregate sale threshold and replace it with businesses that have smoke or vape products occupying 50% of total display area will qualify as a smoke or vape shop. Again, this is a Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Businesses that have, staff is also proposing to define key terms including vape juice, vape products, and vape shops, as well as medical cannabis dispensaries. Per Georgia state law, pharmacies may be given a state license to dispense medical cannabis and low THC oil, but these businesses must adhere to pretty strict state regulations and requirements. Overall, this amendment is to better regulate smoke and vape shops within the city ordinance, ensuring alignment with existing zoning principles. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Daniels?
So Sean, I'm not sure if you were, I think you were involved in those emails, but there was some discussion between a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city attorney and I think staff regarding whether or not we should put the sales quota or cap or restriction, or if we should put the display. Have you and staff been able to determine kind of the, maybe it's a Kevin question, but the kind of the legal efficacy of either method?
Yes, sir.
You want me to address? Okay. Yeah. I got the email also. So I was not at the planning and zoning hearing. That was my 25th anniversary, so that's the first one I missed. And so I've gone back and reviewed it, but the person that also sent that email also sent me an email during my dinner that night, right after the meeting. And I'm not sure, based on that email and the subsequent email, I'm fairly certain on the email the night of the hearing that he either had not read the latest update by staff or didn't comprehend it. I'm not sure which one, but I went back and watched, as probably some of you have done, the actual hearing. And during the planning and zoning meeting, that person made a comment about the HOPE Act and a 1,000-foot radius for marijuana. If you look at, I think it's paragraph 5, but as far as marijuana medical dispensaries, the version that's before council and the version that was on the screen that night states that the city is adopting the state law, whatever the state law is, because there were several bills introduced this last session, and this is going to be a changing area of the law. So we made no effort to even define what a medical marijuana dispensary was, or to apply any type of proximity restrictions on medical marijuana dispensaries. What we said was, whatever the state law is what we're adopting, and if you violate the state law, you violate a city ordinance. So that was the first thing that was addressed in the actual meeting. He made comments in that email Friday, I think it was Friday that it came out, that he felt like the discussion wasn't adequately relayed to council during the work session. And I've read the report, and Sean not only relayed the discussion, he included their proposed language as an alternative to the ordinance. And initially during the meeting, that person talked about shelf space and signage. There was a long discussion about that. That to define a vape shop, it would be 50% of shelf space and or 50% of signage. And it was confusing. After watching it, I couldn't understand which way that was going. It was a long discussion. It was obvious that the other members that were present, there were 3 members present that night, they had some questions about where that was going. And then ultimately, the person that sent the email made a motion to approve the ordinance and replace aggregate sales with shelf space, and the shelf space being 50%. So, so you've got that alternate in front of you. At the workshop, the comments from council, it sounded like council preferred aggregate sales over shelf space. In the email Friday, there were several cases cited in that email, so I figure I've practiced law long enough to know that I don't know everything, and I learn something every day. So I went to try to find these cases. They weren't so easy to find, partly because the citations weren't exactly right. The Michigan v. Tyler case, that citation was correct. In that case, it was a fire at a furniture store at 2 o'clock in the morning. Fire marshals entered the store. They think it's an arson. They see some flammable containers. They seize those, and then they get the fire out by 4 o'clock in the morning, I believe. And then over days, they keep going back into the building. There's no fire. There's no exigent circumstances. They keep going into the building. They keep taking items out, and they use those items to criminally prosecute someone for arson. And that was clearly a Fourth Amendment violation. That's what that case says. Nothing close to what we're talking about with this ordinance. The other case that he cited was Brown versus City of Atlanta, which was referred in the initial email as being an 11th Circuit decision, a 2021 decision. And these were obviously found using an AI platform, which confuses citations, but it's actually a 2019 decision. In that case, the city solicitor's office, codes enforcement, police officers, they entered a private motorcycle private motorcycle club, again at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they search and arrest people. That was a Fourth Amendment issue, and it has nothing close to what we're proposing or what staff's proposing. And the last case that he cited was Brumberg versus City of Marietta, which I think the email said it was a 2006 case, that a Court of Appeals decision that the Supreme Court refused to hear, that actually ended up being a Cobb County Superior Court order that was never appealed, has no precedential value. But even if it had, that was a case dealing with the preemption issues where there was a state law directly on point of what the city was trying to do as far as requiring rental properties to do certain things. And there's a state law directly on point that says what you can and can't do for rental properties. So it was a preemption issue. Again, not really dealing with what we're doing. And the email said that his concern was the percentage of sales would be a Fourth Amendment violation. That order does not even mention the Fourth Amendment within the entire order. But anytime we're dealing with Fourth Amendment, it's reasonableness. There can't be an unreasonable search and seizure of someone's property. What's being proposed is that if someone wants to sell these vape products, then at the time they're getting their license, they have to give a report to tell us whether or not those products constitute 25% of their aggregate sales. There are a number of cities in the state of Georgia. There's Milton that uses 25%, Carrollton 25%, Conyers 25%, Forsyth 50%, Pelham 10%. There are cases that use floor space, 25% of floor space, or Decatur's the only one that I found that used 50% of floor space. Dawsonville, if you wanted to get out of all this reporting and search issues altogether, they say any business whose product retail line includes alternative nicotine products, vape juice, vape products, or non-traditional products, tobacco products, is considered a vape shop. So if you sold it, one product, then it would be a vape shop under that ordinance. So there's different ways of defining it. I don't share any of the concerns that were in that email. There's nothing in our ordinance that would allow searches of businesses. There's nothing that would allow us to go in after hours and start searching computers or anything else. If the business wants to provide these products, then they have to do a report just like we do on alcohol and some other products. But if they don't want to provide the report, then they would get a citation and they'd have their day in court to argue whether or not that was enforceable or not. But in no circumstances would this ordinance allow searches of businesses.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't know that I answered it, but I answered my concern. I mean, those were my concerns from that email on Friday, and the previous.
I guess my concern is I'm reading this thing and it says both of them, 25% of the aggregate sales and then 50% of display. Which one are we using?
No, that was an alternative that staff presented. So you need to pick which one you want to use. You can't use both.
Okay.
You shouldn't use both.
I didn't think so, because you can't do both.
No.
Mr. Drummond, I thought that Carrollton banned them outright. Is that incorrect?
No, that's correct, but they defined it. They defined what a vape shop was. So their definition is similar to ours. It'd be 25% of their aggregate sales. So if a business wants to be a vape shop and they meet that definition, they're not allowed in the city of Carrollton.
I see. And according to what I read in here, and I did watch the meeting, this would come up on renewal of their license annually as to what their sales are. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you look at, I think it's paragraph.
I'm looking at the red line version.
Yeah. Paragraph 7, I'm sorry. So at the time of their annual license renewal, they provide a verified sales report. And a verified sales report is a document that they sign in front of a notary just showing their total receipts and from sales of alternative nicotine products and vape products for each month in the prior year. So it's a self-report type document. We got to take their word for it if you go that route.
So if it worked that way, it sounds to me like it would not be onerous on our staff, because they're just basically receiving the report from the business upon either the first license or the renewal of the license, correct?
Generally, yes. Now, there is another sentence in there. If there was a business that opened up across the street, so it's in a district that vape shops are not allowed, and a codes enforcement officer thought they were selling vape shop, that they were a vape shop, that they might meet the threshold, then he would be authorized to request a verified report at that point. They'd have 2 weeks to prepare it and get back to him.
Thank you. Mr. Daniels, do you want to explain the map that's up?
Yes,
To
ma'am.
help people understand where these type of smoke shops and things could be and couldn't, and are allowed and aren't allowed?
Yes, ma'am. So if you look at the map, this is our current zoning map with the city, and smoke shop, vape shops, tobacco stores are only permitted within the C2 commercial medium density zoning district. So it's that reddish salmon color that's right there. They're mainly at that exit 24, exit 26 corridor area. As you can see, those black dots are the current smoke shops within the city limits. And just like what our attorney Drummond alluded to, there is only one smoke shop that is within that downtown area, but it's not in the CBD area, it's in the CMU. Again, they were grandfathered in once we had our 2021 citywide rezoning effort.
Thank you. Any questions from council for either Mr. Drummond or Mr. Daniels? All right, if there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
This has a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. We have a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for this item? And we have a 10-minute limit. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this item?
Joshua Evans, 640 Cleaver Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. So I'm going to be against it. And one of the reasons why, if you look, I think it was just on Facebook the other day about the vape shops and all that stuff that gets sold in these stores. I think it was 12 or 14 people got arrested for underage selling those things to underage minors, right? Not only that, but they're nasty. Most people don't throw them in the trash. They throw them out on the sides of the street. They throw them out wherever. They throw the box package as soon as they come out the store with it. They throw it on the ground. It's like a cigarette butt. You get done with it, throw it on the ground. Now, I just heard him mention the C2 thing, right? It can only be allowed in C2. Remember back now. Last year, year before last, y'all approved a piece of property over by the schoolhouse behind the fire station, C2. How easy is that going to be for these kids to get that stuff and it being on C2 over there?
I believe you're speaking for or against vape shops, but in this
yes.
case, what's at hand is how they're going to be regulated and where how much space has to be between them and defining them.
Okay. So now, then I'm going to ask you a question on that. You guys said what he just said, that, well, it would be up to code enforcement to come in and say, okay, this, you can't do this, you're doing this, you're too close to this. They can't do the job they're given now. How they going to do that? I mean, I'm just common sense tells me that.
Hi, I'm Andrew Newton. I'm on planning and zoning. I'm just here personally today. Kevin, the point of the inclusion there was that was a non-criminal administrative entry. So when you give the context of fire, it's a good way to make it seem fringe. But in most, I'm sure you know, in most of these cases, it's a criminal matter. And when we're trying to audit sales, criminal entries aren't really applicable. So that's why I had to kind of use that. But the reason, I just wanted to speak quickly. I think my concern is that initially in the work session, there was a few council members discussing putting this through consent agenda. And planning and zoning had, I think, I want to say three meetings. We had tabled this twice, I think. And there was a lot of discussion, and the questions that were asked in the work session replicated the questions that we asked. So it was very clear to me that no one reviewed the planning and zoning sessions at all. So my suggestions are that you enhance reports that come from planning and zoning that highlight key votes and any potential conflicts. You designate somebody from council to attend those meetings, or you provide a framework for somebody from planning and zoning, maybe a chair or something, to come here and provide a report. I think no communication is damaging. None of the context got communicated from what we found, and none of sort of the background as to why we made the recommendations we did. Again, I'm not speaking on their behalf. I'm just speaking on my interpretation of it. And as far as the ordinance, though, specifically, display area is far more widely used than sales, at least in Georgia. And I guess as a general synopsis, I would suggest that. So the question of when we say things like this doesn't allow an officer to enter, that's really out of context. What we're really talking about is the enforcement. In enforcing sales, you need sales records. You need a subpoena or a replacement administrative process to do that. That's, I'm assuming, more expensive, more time consuming, as opposed to 50% display area, which seems to be largely provided for in a, what is it called? There is an exception on regulated industries that effectively allows you to do a visual inspection without like a warrant or a subpoena. So now you can't go into any back rooms or anything, but it provides for the ability for an officer to go into a business and view things that are visible in a display area. So what you're doing is sort of ensuring that, and I'd be interested to know how many businesses have been audited under this ordinance before, or how many audits under any ordinance the city's done over a certain time period. So I think you're sort of just comparing an expensive, time-consuming process versus just simply having an inspection. So that's the context I think that was missing. So I think what you're doing, if you want I have a copy of this I could give to one of you guys, but I think ultimately this is, if you were to conduct an audit to enforce 25% sales, I think it would be risky to do so. I think it would be problematic. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm a little confused. This time is to say whether you're for or against.
We had the 4, this is against,
Okay,
and we
but the
have
plan-
3 minutes and 21 seconds
Okay.
left.
So, but with all due respect to the commissioner from Planning and Zoning, that's all informative and something that should be done, communicated between council and commissions, but that wasn't for or against the issue. So,
It was against the current
okay.
form that's recommended.
And so I'm not sure. So when I hear the change in regulations and the more distance and so forth, I'm for that. It seems like, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's not really a really a good way of monitoring it. Floor space doesn't really give you any kind of information one way or another. Shelf space, floor space, one way or another, and the 25% or 50, whatever the percentage is self-reporting. So that doesn't really give you anything. I'm just wondering, this is kind of rhetorical, I'm just wondering, does the city have any authority on limiting the number of, in this case, vape shops, but any type of business that, you have 5 shops, like you cannot have any more, or 10, or does the city have an ability to set a limit on the number of shops within the city? Just, I know it's rhetorical, not a lot, you know. I'm just wondering if that's something you can do.
Thank you. We have a minute and 54 seconds left for anyone that would like to speak against this item.
Hello, I'm so sorry. My name is Lisa Connor. I don't know if I have to say that. I'm not technically in the city limits. One of the questions that I do have is how this applies to businesses who do not currently label themselves as vape shops but do sell vape and THC related products. What I've seen specifically in the city of Villa Rica, right there at Villa Rica High School, there is a store directly in front of the school that does sell vape and THC products. And I do not know how much of their inventory is based off of that, but if you go based off of sales, about 80 to 90% of the gas stations in the area are probably going to be pushing that 15 to 20%. Vapes are far more popular than cigarettes these days. And if you're really worried about, ID concerns and safety concerns as far as it falling into hands of young children, vape shops are one of the strictest places regarding IDs and will make you show it when you walk through the door. Whereas a gas station, if the clerk is busy or they simply don't care, they're not going to ask you. That's where a majority of your vape sales are coming from, not actually from the vape shops. So I just wanted to ask if anybody had actually took that into consideration in regards to this bill, and if a gas station was over 25% of sales, would they then be qualified as a vape or smoke shop as well? Thank you.
Just very quickly, that was addressed in that email also. So that concern, we talked about that. There was estimated that 48% of gas stations would qualify. And when we say that it's more objective to use sales, not really, because do you include gas or not? So your decision as to whether to include gas, like at a convenience store, has a massive influence on whether that convenience store is going to count toward that 25%. So saying we're going to include gas or we're not going to include gas is subjective. So I think, again, but yes, it was addressed, and I think about half of the convenience stores would count as smoke shops.
Obviously, this was not a simple topic. When we began it, probably, I don't know, well over a year ago, it seems like, when we were talking about how many vape shops and how far apart they are in the city and where they're allowed and not allowed. Any other questions or discussion from council? I know it was discussed during the work session. Yes, Councilman Wormuth?
I do apologize. I'm not going to apologize. I live in a world of absolutes, so I will totally advocate for sales. But my question is this: that was brought up in all of the discussion, is that if a gas station does go over 25% of the sales, will it then be considered a vape shop? And then if they're within that perimeter of the school or church or whatever, what will happen then?
Yeah, if you adopt the 25% of aggregate sales, then they would be considered a vape shop if they meet that test.
Okay, and then, but what I'm asking is, what would they have to move? Would they have to limit sales? Would they have to? What would be the consequences? I guess is a better answer, or have we not thought about that yet?
No, the current businesses are different. A new business could not do that.
Okay. But the other, you're saying the other ones are grandfathered in?
Yes, and now you can phase out those kind of things. We would just have to do it through. It's not addressed in this ordinance.
Okay. All right. Those were my questions.
Councilman Wormuth?
Okay, so how do we regulate right now with the sales of alcohol? I may have asked this at the work session, but how do we regulate that? Because it's a certain percentage.
50% of their sales have to come from food.
Correct. So how do we regulate that?
I think they have to provide reports at the time of licensing.
So during licensing, the restaurant would provide that report, correct? Okay. And staff, are you recommending The 25% or the 50% of the display?
Staff is recommending for a 25% of aggregate sale threshold.
So in your opinion, why? Because I do appreciate what Mr. Newton brought to the table today. And I do appreciate the report that he provided and took the time to do. I also value your opinion. But I am a little torn by the 25% sales versus the 50% display area and the benefit to which one is going to actually provide the control for the vape shops. Did I ask a?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brecca Carter. I'm the interim community development director here. I've been here for about 3 weeks, but this was one of the main topics that came up in the discussion about how to regulate it. So if you do the 50% aggregate space in the location, it can only be addressed at the time of CO. And that means at the time the business license is issued, once the final inspections are complete. Now, we only have one chance to do that. So if a convenience store, any type of shop is going to come in and they know that regulation, they're not going to show us 50% of their display to be vape products. But we only get one shot to manage that. Versus the 25% aggregate sales we get to address every year, similar to how we do with restaurants who sell liquor or any type of alcoholic product. So we have a little bit more regulation. And to add to that, every vape shop or smoke shop still has to come in for a special exception. They still have to go through the public hearing process with the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the City Council.
So the sales would allow you to regulate every single year, whereas the displays, what if they add more displays within their business?
We wouldn't know. We would have no way of keeping track of that. Now, we would utilize more staff resource if we're popping in ever so often, but if we can regulate it from the start and on a regular basis, an annual basis, I think that helps to preserve our team, our teamwork, our code enforcement group, and also our business license staff.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions, or if there's no more questions, any other discussion amongst council? If somebody's ready to make a motion?
I mean, y'all got it. I don't really have, I mean, I will say, based upon what Brecca just stated, I tend to lean towards the aggregate sale model. Seems like that's better for staff and more efficient process and enforceability.
Okay, I'm assuming when we make this motion, we have to add the 25% on the end of it.
Or to approve the staff's recommendation for the ordinance change.
Here, I can do it.
And just know while he's looking for this, when we do an ordinance, it's not like it's set in stone forever, that we can't tweak it and change it. That ability is there. So this doesn't have to be the exact way we do it forever if we feel like it's not adequate.
So I make a motion to approve the proposed modifications to Section 8.22 of the zoning ordinance, which addresses regulations for smoke shops, tobacco stores, and medical cannabis dispensaries, along with the addition of definitions of vaping products and vape shops, including the staff recommendation of setting the sales threshold at 25% of a business's aggregate retail sales for classification as a smoke or vape shop.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor?
That is unanimous.
Is Ms. Marchman voting, or?
I didn't hear her say one way or the other. Ms. Parchman?
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, item D, utilities. Mr. Bain, development regulations update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Bain, Utilities Director, Interim Deputy City Manager. The purpose of this next item is to amend Appendix A of our development regulations of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Villa Rica, Section 1A, Section 200. The city had recently updated Sections 200, 202, 203, and 212 of the city's development regulations, requiring an approved water and sewer utility capacity availability letter prior to the approval of any applications for rezoning, annexation, special use permits, building permits, land disturbance permits, or approve any residential construction or any commercial development without a statement that adequate utility is available. While this inclusion was necessary, staff has identified an opportunity to make the process more efficient for residents requesting a couple of specific approvals. We may recall at last week's work session, the two exemptions that staff has recommended center around home occupation businesses and single-family residential units. The exemptions proposed for home occupation businesses states that home occupation business license requests employing no more than 2 individuals are exempt from the requirement unless the business, in the opinion of staff, constitutes a significant impact on the water and sewer utility conveyance and or treatment system. Staff wanted to address the concerns of council at last week's work session, which were centered around single-family residential units and lots. So we met the following day after the work session, and the result of that meeting, we added one section to item number 2 and item number 3. So in order to address the single-family residential, we modified the exemption proposal on item number 2 to 1 single-family residential unit to be constructed on 1 parcel that is currently vacant, is exempt from this requirement, provided this lot is part of an already approved development in which the final plat has been approved by City Council. And then in addressing the subdivided lots concern, we added item number 3, which states that all subdivided lots are not included in this exemption. Subdivided lot requests must undergo administrative review with planning and zoning, at which time a utility review will be conducted to determine availability of water and sewer capacity. So essentially, we feel if on the subdivided lots question, this gives us the opportunity to go back and review it a little further and make sure that we can offer water and sewer capacity to that subdivided lot. And we believe with what's in here currently, it should address the concern of lots being subdivided and continue to reach back for additional capacity. So if a lot's subdivided, then we have the opportunity to go back and review that and determine if we have capacity or not. If it's a single-family residential lot that's zoned accordingly, then that's already part of an approved plat, then we wouldn't have to go through this exercise. So an individual could build a home on that lot without having to go through this exercise.
Questions from council? Yes, Councilman McCoy.
Okay, refresh my memory, please, on final plat, because I am thinking back to one of the developments by my house, and I thought when they did the final plat, like all the infrastructure was in, it was almost you could start laying foundation. Is that what you mean? Because if you're talking about some of the things that have been approved, like the Fuquay development where the new Publix is that they haven't broken ground yet, or that there's no ground broken. So when I think of the final plats coming in that we put on consent agenda, that's usually pretty much either something is complete, like the infrastructure, or am I mistaken?
No, you're correct. When the final plat is approved, all the infrastructure is in, and the lots have already been divided to the extent that they can be divided. So in final plat, those lots can no longer be subdivided, and the infrastructure is in place. However, we do have cases where a final plat may have been approved years ago, but there's still portions of that development that hadn't been completed yet. So in reaching back for that capacity, so if we have some vacant lots that had been vacant on a final plat that was approved 15 years ago, and now someone comes in, purchases those lots, and wants to develop on those particular lots, we're allowing an exemption for that if the final plat had been approved.
Okay, that does make sense to me. I'm just curious because there's a lot, and maybe I'm missing the process. But there's a lot of stuff on the east side that is still fields, but it's supposed to be development. Have those final plats been approved?
If that development, that site, has gone through the planning and zoning process and been issued an LDP, or even not had been issued an LDP, if they've received some sort of previous capacity, or they've gone through some form of planning and zoning process to where we have already calculated that capacity, then it's essentially approved if it's already on our developments list. We have a living document that lists all the projects within the city.
Yeah,
and
yes.
if it's on that document that shows that it's already in some sort of plan review or
Okay.
comment or state approval or local approval, then we're already accounting for that capacity.
Okay, where I was going with this was just making sure that some of the stuff that has been discussed or they've come up for maybe rezoning or something like that, we're not, and I know as I say this out loud, I'm going back to some of the things in public comment where we're talking about developers and stuff, but that we're not hindering people that we've already said that they're going to come and do this.
No,
I'm fine with not having anything else, but I just don't want to make it more difficult for people who have already started the process, is what I'm saying.
No, agreed, nor do we. And this amendment to the previous regulation change is in an effort to help ease some of that on the residents that want to build a single-family home
Okay.
or the residents that want to have a home occupation. So we're trying to relieve them because right now they come to planning and zoning and they have to go through the capacity process, and based on our ordinance, they may or may not get capacity. So we feel like if someone has that one lot in a previously approved development, we ought to allow them to continue to build that lot without going through this long process.
Okay.
As well as a home occupation. So this is an effort to try and give some relief to residents that want to do that.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Montahan.
Thank you. So I guess, John, I appreciate you're trying to address my concern from the work session. I guess my only question, though, is that the additional language here provides for a final plat, but not, I mean, if it's a single family, if it's a larger parcel and it gets subdivided, it becomes a major subdivision, that may have not been final platted. It's been subdivided, but it's not final platted. So with the language here, are you still providing that homeowner exemption?
No, that would go through the review process.
Okay, so that's where the paragraph 3 comes in. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's what I was trying to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you avoid like a new development coming online that wasn't done.
Well, it's an effort to ensure we have available capacity in our conveyance and treatment system. It's an effort to allow a landowner to build their single-family residential unit on that land they own. But it also is addressing a concern of a large parcel being continuously subdivided and turning into a de facto development project.
Seemed like the second paragraph under background, put it in a nutshell, except for the subdivided, put it in a nutshell, the relief you're trying to provide to people with either, that were getting caught up. Remember, we kind of did a sweeping thing.
Yes.
You have to have this letter to show that, that we have the ability to take on that sewer capacity. But here you said, well, the licensing people, this was a home occupation license was getting caught up in it, and so was somebody just trying to build a home on a single
Yes.
lot.
Yes, so that's what we're trying
Yeah,
to address.
Yeah,
Mhm.
appreciate that. Any other questions from council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the staff recommended amendments to Appendix A, Development Regulations of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Villa Rica, Georgia, Section 1A, Section 200, Sub A, exemptions.
Second.
Figure that one out. There was 2 seconds. All right, all in favor? Any opposed?
That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Item E1, GFL sanitation rate increase. Ms. Long?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Long, Deputy Finance Director, Interim Finance Director. I'm coming before you tonight to ask you to approve a sanitation rate increase for our customers. GFL's contract, they do our sanitation, and their contract says that each year in July they can do a CPI or Consumer Price Index increase. They notified us last week of that, and this year it's 4.9%. So we are asking you to allow us to pass that same increase on to our customers. The chart, the first one here shows what we are being charged, $16 for the first cart, and then $9.89 for each additional cart, and then the price increase moving that to $16.78 and $10.37, which is a 78 and 48% increase respectively. The next chart below shows what we are asking to pass on to our customers.
You meant 78%. I mean 78 cents, not percent.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. That would be scary.
No, it's a 4.9% increase, so.
Questions from council? Yes, Ms. Warmoth, I mean, Councilwoman.
Oh, you're good.
Councilman Warmoth.
I think I've been pretty vocal about how I feel about GFL service. Where have we moved forward? I know during the workshop we had discussed in-house. Have we looked, where are we in that process?
Okay, so we are currently, we have a consultant, Malden & Jenkins, that is working to look at our options for when this contract with GFL is up, which is in 2027. We have provided documentation. My last contact with them was on Friday. So we're kind of waiting on them to do their research and kind of get back with us to what our options are. So it's in progress. We may have one more of these CPI increases, though, before we can change up and do something different.
That does not make me happy. I mean, again, the issue is the service that we are getting, that our citizens are getting with GFL. And for a rate increase, while I understand that it's only a 4.9% increase, when your service is lacking, and I want to be very clear about that because I hope that a member with GFL is watching right now. When you are increasing your prices, you should, at the bare minimum, be providing quality service to your customers. And that is not what our citizens are getting. I cannot wait to hear what comes up about an in-house service because I have no doubt that we can provide better service to our citizens than what GFL is giving us. Just want to put that out there.
I second that statement, Councilwoman.
I can't think of anyone up here that's happy with the service and the number of complaints that we get, whether they're dripping things on the street or whatever. It was a matter of looking at the cost. Was it feasible for us to do it? And that's what we're figuring out right now. What's going to cost for us to buy that equipment and bring it in-house? In the meantime, some years we've only had one bidder, and we had to go with the company because there was only one company that we even had to choose from because we couldn't do it ourselves. Hopefully that's something we can change in the future. Any other discussion or questions from council? We're kind of stuck with this for now until we finish our study and see what we can do in the future. And this contract's up in '27, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Don't really want to, but I'm going to. I move to approve the updated customer sanitation rates due to GFL's 4.9% rate increase based on Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, effective August the 1st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
I have a question really. I agree with Ms. Warner, but is this supposed to go into effect now, or are you saying in 2027?
It will be effective August 1st of this year.
This year?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we can't do any better right now. I guess I'll have to revisit all those a bitter taste in my mouth because of the citizens and, having to do that with the rate like it is and then with the economy like it is. So I guess I'll have to agree right now since we can't do any better, but be definitely looking for something better down the line.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd say that's unanimous, reluctantly, because we have to. All right, city manager report. Ms. Hallman.
There's going to be some discussion in executive session, and then there will be a full city manager report next month.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Going to move into executive session. Mr. Drummond, would you give the reasons for why we're going into executive session, please, sir?
If someone could make a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing to vote to enter into the contract, purchasing, dispose of, lease, property subject to approval and a subsequent public vote pursuant to OCGA 50-14-3B1D, and also a meeting to discuss and deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer as provided in OCGA 50-14-3B2.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. I need a motion
I'll make a
to
motion
move out
to
of
return.
executive session and reconvene.
Second.
Matthew.
We gotta wait on
We're
that.
missing Matthew.
Restroom.
Yeah, I was making the motion that we return from executive session back to regular.
All in favor?
Unanimous?
We gotta wait on
Yeah, we'll wait.
Who seconded that?
Reconvene.
Okay.
So we already took a vote on being back in regular session. I've made the decision to appoint Larry Wood as our interim city manager.
I make a motion to override the appointment.
I'll second.
All in favor? Oh, discussion? Yes, Councilman Wormuth.
I've thought long and hard about where I was going to go with this and exactly what I was going to say. I want to make it very clear that this is not a personal decision, that this is absolutely based on what is best for Villa Rica. And I'm not saying at all that Larry Wood is not what's best for Villa Rica, so I want to be very clear on that. Or let me rephrase that. That Larry Wood is not capable of doing this job and would not be good for doing the job. The problem is that council did not have the opportunity to talk to any of the other applicants that came in. We were not able to ask any questions to them. And so I cannot confidently say that out of the applications that were received, that Larry Wood is the best choice for Villa Rica at this time. I'm not saying that Larry Wood is not capable of doing it. That is not at all what I'm saying. I have to my job is to make a well-informed decision with all of the information provided. And unfortunately, all of the information has not been provided. And that includes being able to speak directly to the applicants. So Larry, I just want you to understand that I think the world of you and your wife. This is not personal. Separating personal and business is not an easy task, but it is a requirement here. And in this situation, I would just like to speak with everybody so that I'm able, everybody is in the applicant, so that I'm able to make a confident statement that you are absolutely hands down the best applicant that we had.
Discussion?
I also want to add, Larry, we only met one time. This is not personal about you. You're a good man. You have an extensive resume. I wholeheartedly share Councilwoman Warmar's sentiment. This is not personal whatsoever. This is about not being able to fully vet the process. I understand that the charter is different than it was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whenever it was changed. But the process still has been in Villa Rica. It's been the way Villa Rica has done it for as long as I've been here. That process did not happen here. And even that charter change does provide that the mayor's decision can be overridden by the council with a minimum of 4-1 vote. And so I think even the charter provision implies that there has to be inclusion of the council in these decision-making, and they cannot be made independent of the council. And I think and I understand Leslie's position, and I don't want to speak for her, that she feels like she did that, but it was not in the pattern and practice that we've grown to be accustomed to in the city of Villa Rica, and I think that's why I'm voting in this way.
Councilman McCoy?
You, Larry, you talk to me, we talk, and you know we've been friends over the years, but it's just the process of how this was handled is why we're going one way and everybody's made their own decision, but it's not, well, you know, you and I, so it's nothing personal. So we're gonna talk later on, but that's my decision right there.
Councilman McCoy?
Well, Larry, I don't know you. I'm sorry. But, and the only reason I figured out it was you is that I know everybody else in here and I know their faces. But what I did want to say is I'm so sorry you got drug into this and this political quagmire that we have right now. So I'm not going to speak for the whole council, but for everything I've heard, you're a great person. That's wonderful. I probably should give you a call and talk to you sometime, but well, it's not a secret. I don't read my emails. It's not a secret. Everybody knows, and I'll make sure you have my right number because usually I'm pretty good. I'm 99.9% on point with my text messages. So, but I'll make sure of that. But I'm sorry you got drug into this quagmire, and I'm also going to reiterate the sentiment that this is nothing personal, and that. But I did say that if I were retired, I would stay retired. Me personally, I can't wait for retirement. So that's all I had to say.
Yes, Mr. Carter. Councilman Carter.
I do know Larry because I've worked with Larry. I worked with him for 4 years on my first term, and a little bit at the beginning after a 10-year spell of being off the council when I came back in 14. I worked with him a little bit then when he served as interim city manager. I know Larry is first class. I know he knows his job. If he served 6+ years, I know he knows how to run a city. So I don't have a problem with Larry running a city. I think he can do a good job at doing that. I do know that since I've been involved with hiring so many different city managers, and I've been here 15 and a half years on the council, I know that you bring them in and it takes them quite a while to get up to speed. They don't get up to speed right away, especially if you bring one in from outside the state. There's contacts to be made. Those things take a long time to develop. So I know Larry's developed those contacts, so I'm 100% behind you, Larry, because I think you can do a good job.
Anything else from council?
No. Okay. Can I call for the vote? Okay. I call for the vote.
I vote yes for the override.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion passes.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?